What's good, everyone? This is Dev the Coolest,
And this is JB.
and welcome to Slick Talk. Hey,
Hey there, my boy.
with a hashtag. You said what?
You were a little delayed there.
Well, we're doing this whole virtual thing. We're social distancing. This is the first time we're trying this. It's kind of like a telephone call. You know, when you try to sing with somebody at the same time on a virtual call. On the phone call, and it messes up.
Yeah, but welcome to hashtag Slick Talk.
Yes, welcome back, y'all. It's good to have y'all. What'd you say?
I said Zoom style.
Zoom style, right. This is going to be very different because we're usually like with each other. We can we can see each other now, but
Which is funny because I need to, just looking at Debbie's face sometimes like cracks me up. Like his face.
What? I don't know if that's a compliment or
your facial expressions. Your facial expressions.
Well, So we're social distancing and we're doing this whole separate thing. How are you holding up during lockdown?
To be honest with you, there's days where like I'm like, oh, I got this. This ain't nothing. Like I can handle it. And then there's days where I'm like, man, I want to go outside. Like I want
right.
Like I want to be somewhere. Like I want to be around people.
Right.
Like literally, it goes up and down. Literally goes up and down. Some days are better than others, but I do know that my worst days aren't as bad as some others' worst days. And I know it may sound strange and weird to put it that way, but that kind of gives me perspective to keep on going and keeping my hopes up and keeping my spirits up is the fact that like even on my worst days and even on days where I'm annoyed that we have to go through this, there are people out there that have it way worse than me,
Right.
That kind of like snaps me out of it.
Got it. And I think it's important to like during this time, like I think or I don't know if you felt it, but I initially felt a pressure to like super tap into like my creative space. And like, I felt like there was a pressure that I had to make sure that I was constantly doing something to fuel my passion, which is like super dope and understandable. Like this is the opportune time to do it. However, I think it is okay to sit and take care of your mental health and sometimes do absolutely nothing but sit up and watch Netflix all day. You know what I mean?
And I feel like you make a good point because I feel like that's necessary actually right now. I mean, I feel like the world in general was constantly on the move. Like everybody, There's never been a point where the world has stopped like this. Like when Beyonce said world stop, that's what this means. She means. So basically she said it and it just happened, a couple of years later.
Right.
Yes. It's just literally a world stop where everyone is not doing anything. And I feel like it's unfortunate that it had to happen with the form of a virus coming. But I feel like in general, like maybe we should have like a weekend where we can reflect and look back on this moment where like, there was time when we couldn't go out to protect others in this world, not even just in our country, but in this world. So, it's definitely going to be a real interesting situation.
Yeah.
Over.
Getting to the other side of it, because right now I don't have a sleep schedule. I sleep and wake up whenever I want. And it's just like, there's there's structure, but there's no structure at the same time. Like, it's like, I'll take a nap. Probably after we finish this episode, I'll take a nap, wake up at 9 o'clock, start playing video games, go to sleep at 2.
Damn.
Well, yeah, because it's like, well, what else is there to do? I mean, then I'll go to sleep at like maybe 1 or 2 in the morning, wake up at 10:30, 11, meditate, do my little small workout. I don't really do too much, but
come on, workout. I see the muscles kind of protruding through the shirt.
A little bit though. I wish I had some a bench press or something. These push-ups can only do so much.
Well, you could bench press a nigga.
That would be social distancing.
That's true.
That's another thing. I do miss sex. I can't like wait to be able to. I mean, I can still have it if I want.
That's a good question.
But
so like a segue is that how do you think people are really out here like not having sex, like not having people over, like
I think people are, absolutely, and there's nothing wrong with it so long as you're taking the precautions. I'm just very like, I'm not a germaphobe, but it's also just like, I don't know where you've been, who you've been around, what your day consists of. You're gonna have to strip right at the door and let me spray you down with some Lysol if I let you in here.
Even still, that's not gonna be enough.
But I see on Twitter people still having sex parties and stuff in Atlanta, and other major Black cities.
It could be a fucking bigger world disaster going on, and them motherfuckers still gonna fuck out.
World War III. Nuclear bombs just setting out outside the window.
Like, hold on, let me get it in real quick before we.
This is my last opportunity.
Right.
Get it in.
No shade, but
no shade. Get your issue if you need to. But I absolutely know that people are doing it. I'm not though, and which is why I'm like, I can't wait to. Because sex is important to me, as I think a lot of our listeners, if you've been listening, know.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, other than that, like, taking care of myself. But I think going back to the whole thing about being creatives, like I said, we want to make sure that y'all understand we're not saying like you need to fuel it if you're not in that space to do it. This would be the perfect time to do it. However, we want to talk about being a creative in this space right now and in general, and what supporting each other creatives looks like, how we can do it, how we can be better at it, things that me and JB agree and disagree on when it comes to sharing information and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And yeah, how are we going to start this? You have a...
Well, before we start, I could definitely start it. But before we start, I do want to say also to your point that you just said, like a sidebar, then we'll jump back.
You go back to it, yeah.
Interrupt you. No, but as a sidebar, I think your point is completely valid of people not necessarily having to feel like they need to do something. Like you can just sit at home, you can watch TV, you could chill for right now if you're not working, because once this opens back up, the world opens back up, we're going to be on the climb once again. So I totally get that. But at the same time, don't let that mistake you. Don't be mistaken for not doing anything at all. If there was once something that you're passionate about. Me speaking from a creator standpoint, and I have a lot of friends that are creators as well, or creatives. I literally feel like this is, like you said, and like a lot of people said, the opportune time to kind of put your head down and to kind of do stuff that you want to feel your passion. Yeah, you may not want to do it, but we have nothing but time. So I was having a conversation with one of my friends, and he was telling me like, oh, I want to focus more on doing this. I want to do this project when this is over and blah, blah, blah. I said, you know what? Well, maybe we should do a challenge together and we can include other people. Maybe the challenge should be hour out of the day, if you're not working, and take an hour out of the day and put that hour fully focused on what your passion is, like what you're doing creatively, right? So that means an hour strictly without your phone in your presence. Move your phone, move any type of distraction, literally sit in your laptop and figure out the ways and the steps you want to take to focus on your passion when this is over. Right. So an hour out of 24 hours is nothing when you're not doing anything.
Absolutely nothing. Yeah, you're right.
It's completely nothing. So I think it's an easy challenge, but I think people are still gonna not do it. But nonetheless, to each his own, whatever works for you. But me personally, I'm taking more than an hour, to feel my passion, which is this podcast, which is creative directing, and I'm trying to move on to photography. So like, I'm trying to explore a whole bunch of things while I have so much time on my hands.
And there are a lot of free classes being offered right now in photography and in
absolutely.
Acting and singing and drawing and, things that, and we're just talking about the arts, or I'm just talking about the arts right now. There's business classes being offered for free and stuff too.
Absolutely.
Whatever your passion may be. I think, and the last thing on this is that if you come out of this lockdown and you are not an essential worker and you've had all of this time to kind of do things to make yourself better, if you come out of this the same way or, in the same space that you were in before this quarantine, maybe that's a problem. maybe it's a problem. If you need to take space for your mental health, absolutely do that. If you need a day, I mean, I agree with that challenge because I'm gonna do work.
Absolutely.
That's me. But I know some people, they just need a day of absolutely nothing. And if you need that, if you want to take that, absolutely do it. But if you come out of this and you didn't do anything, I don't want to hear a lick of complaining about the fact that
you can go back.
Right.
not doing nothing. You can go back. At this point, you need a couple of more months.
Right.
But, transitioning on to, I think the bigger topic of the conversation today is, how do we support, like you were saying, how do we support one another as creatives? How do we keep challenging each other as creatives? I guess one question that we can ask ourselves is, do we feel like we're in a competition with any other people that are in the same field as far as like podcasters and things like that? How do we navigate around that situation? So I guess I can start off the conversation with saying, how do you feel personally? I can start off by asking a question. How do you feel personally about collaborating with like other podcasts and like promoting other podcasts and like advertising for like other creatives? Like, where is your mindset with that?
I think it's like necessary, honestly. Like a lot of podcasters are coming from a space, like there are celebrities that are going into podcasting. They already have a platform, they have followers, they have people that are going to tune in just because they are who they are. But there are so many people like here in the Bay Area, in LA, across the country, all over the world really, that are, creating podcasts from the ground up. And I think one of the best ways to make sure that your podcast grows is to cross collaborate and to go on to each other's shows and promoting your podcast or your website or whatever on the show and getting the word out that way. You said something earlier about dang, I lost my thought went that quick, but no, I'm with it. I'm with it. I have.
So where are your limits? Like, where are your limits, or where's your like middle ground? What is something that you can easily do to promote or help a podcaster or help a
Well, yeah, like posting another podcast's show on your Instagram, or sorry if it's noisy in the back. I live in East Oakland, but but posting it on like your Instagrams or your Facebook or your Pinterest or Twitter. Help promoting other shows and like I said, going on to other shows and having really great conversation. Like it's not just putting something up for the sake of putting something up. There has to be a purpose behind it and a reason. But I will say that when it comes to starting out a podcast, I think there has to be a boundary with freely giving away information, because I think there's beauty in the come up and the struggle of learning the process and, having your peaks and valleys in your own journey and not necessarily having everything fed to you.
Yeah.
I'm totally down with, giving each other information and stuff like that, but not willfully giving the information. Like if someone comes to me and asks like, oh, what does starting a podcast look like? Like I'm totally down to help you, but I'm not going to give you every single tool. Like I'm not going to give you, like I may give you links to look up microphones and stuff like that, but like I'm not going to sit up and make a whole sheet and say, oh, this is what the studio you should go to, or this is what, like I'll just tell you from our experience what it was, and you can take from it what you want.
And why would you say is your number one reason for not feeling like you would want to give them more information? Like, oh, this is a studio that you should go to, or this is the that you should use, or
Well, yeah, like I said, I think it's more because I think there's beauty in having your own story and in struggle. And not to say that struggle has to be the story, but I think you could take a what is it? You can take a horse to the water, but you can't force it to drink.
Yeah.
It's like that. Like I can help you get to this point, but if you don't do your own work to quench that thirst, then what was the point?
Yeah.
Or what is the point, I guess, to hold your hand along the whole time? Because I have my own shit that I'm working on. Yeah. I can't do everything for you. We got our own promotion. We got our own recordings. We got our own stuff to do. But I'm not opposed to helping people, especially Black creatives. And I hate the term people of color, but any ethnic group, I'm totally down to help because we're already a little behind. But yeah.
No, absolutely. I'm happy that you.
What do you think?
Yeah, I'm happy that you brought that up, first of all. But second of all, I'm happy that you distinguish Black people and people of color. Nonetheless, I'm happy that you put this up because that's become a pet peeve of mine. But with that being said, I will say that I actually have a difference of opinion in that regard. I personally don't. I don't feel a problem with. I don't have a problem with helping people during their come up. Like you said that you don't have a problem as well with helping people during their come up. But I also don't have a problem with giving them specifics to how I got to where I'm at. It would kind of be a little condescending for me to sit back and say, oh, I'm not going to let you know what network I use or what studio I go to or other little small information like that when I haven't even made it that big. Right. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, I've made it to this podcast and me as an individual, I made it to a certain point where I'm proud of and that I feel like has made a lot of success, for the time being. But in that regard of me feeling like I'm in a position to like my information that I have is like the key, to the castle. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah.
Palace, like, so for me to even think that in my head that by me giving this information that it would they would instantly capitalize off of it and then end up building an empire is kind of like a little, I don't know. It's just like, I would rather give them the information as much as I can give if they're asking for it. I definitely agree with you in that aspect of not volunteering information. But if somebody innocently asks for information on helping them build a podcast or helping them build anything that I have a little knowledge of, I don't have a problem with giving that information. And one of the reasons why I don't, and I won't go too long on it, but one of the reasons why I don't is because I feel like the herb verbiage of each one teach one. Right. You know what I'm saying? So I literally personally would have not been where I'm at as a podcaster in this podcast had there not been people along this journey that have taught me or told me or helped me with how to speak better during the podcast, how to promote the podcast, certain things like that. So they taught me and I could teach another person the same thing. And who knows, the person that I teach can end up really taking off and could be really, really good with this and, reach a certain point that surpasses what I even have going on. And then they have the opportunity of looking back at me. People with, morals will look back at the person who taught them.
Right, with morals.
Morals will look back at the person that taught them and be like, when I was on the come up too, like JB literally pulled me to the side and said, this is what you can use. This is what you know what I'm saying? So I'm not necessarily looking for recognition, but I'm saying that's what comes with helping people. That's a positive attribute with helping people that are on the come up as well,
No, yeah. I agree with that. I think, well, do you think that, going back to the whole volunteering information thing, do you think that it is possible to overshare information like to the masses?
Well,
because
first of all, the only time that you would be able to overshare to the masses is when you have the reach to reach the masses, right? So for me personally, like
I guess by whoever you're following, whatever you're following is at that point.
So that's a great point. It would all depend on where my following is at that point. If I reach a certain point in my life where I feel like I'm getting the information that I give out is dependent on my money or something. Like if I give out too much information,
right? He said that's
money,
with my coin.
if it could play with my status, you know what I'm saying,
Yeah.
like that. Like I'm definitely going to be a little bit more hesitant to give out my secrets and everything, because at that point, it's literally my key to success.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. But at the point where I'm at right now, and what a lot of people was at, like building up their podcast, we have what we like as a network of, you know, up and coming podcasts and people that are still building up their podcasts, like Resume, we have the disadvantage of not having already a lot of followers that we can speak to. Whereas celebrities already have a ton of followers, they have a ton of listeners already that they come based upon them just being celebrities. So we kind of like get shitted on because they're like, we have to prove ourselves even more. With that being said, why not come together and help each other so that we can, you know, overtake, you know, the populace, if you will, the celebrities that are already getting a lot of streams just based upon them being a celebrity. You know what I'm saying? So to answer your point, there is no oversharing when you're at the position that I'm in right now. You know what I'm saying? Because at the end of the day, it's like I still don't have a lot of information myself. And I still feel like it's good to help out people that are in the same position as me, or even a little that are still coming up, you know, starting their podcast as me, because I would rather them do well and see them do well than people that easily had an advantage just starting off, like celebrities.
Right. No, yeah.
That makes sense?
No, yeah. And I think, and I like I said, I agree with that in their former point too. Like, I just don't want information to go into the wrong hands, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Like,
what would be the wrong hands to you?
Like if somebody's trying to start a project that I fundamentally and morally do not agree with, like I would not want them to have, or I wouldn't want to be the one. They can find help somewhere else, but I wouldn't want to be the one to aid them in that, because then I am allowing it, I guess. Not allowing it, but encouraging it, you know? Yeah, like if there's, because the thing is, like, yes, like I would be down to help Black creatives, but then also if you're a Black creative that's trying to push a Hotep narrative, or like you're trying to push like an anti-white narrative, you know, like I don't agree with that, and I don't want to help you in that way. You can find your help, you know, somehow, but it's not going to be through me.
No, absolutely.
But if on the flip side of that, though, back to your point, like I think it's necessary for us to help each other, because we're all we really have.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Our community, like, I mean, I think I was having this conversation before with a few people in regards to information being shared and everything like that. And one of the people that I had a conversation with, I had set the example of like crabs in a bucket. Like, you know, I'm pretty sure you've heard that analogy of Black people can be in like crabs in the bucket, where, you know, one person's reaching the top, and instead of like pulling people up when they reach the top, or instead of allowing one person to reach the top, we try to pull them down so that we can reach the top. You know what I'm saying? So I try to coordinate.
But that's the thing. You never know people's intention. That's another thing. Like someone could be utilizing you to pull themselves out of a bucket and leave you in the bucket.
Absolutely.
You know,
and take every day.
And that goes back to the whole moral thing. Like, you would hope that if you help someone that they will lift you up as well, but everyone's not like that. And I don't know, it's just hard to, you know, for me, it's hard. I don't trust people.
No, absolutely. And I get that. Like, I mean, I don't want people to believe that I don't want people to believe that I'm naive. You know what I'm saying? Like, I know people are out here on the come up, especially in our field, the creative field and podcasting field. I know people are on the come up, and I know people wouldn't extend the same generosity as I would extend, but I stopped not too long ago, actually, but I stopped allowing how other people react towards me or perceive me to dictate how I react towards them. Gotcha. So whereas I know there's going to be people out there with morals that are not going to help me out of the bucket, I'm still going to do what I have to do because it makes me feel better at the end of the day.
And that's your karma.
That's your karma at the end of the day. You have to step on somebody's back and toes to get where you're at. It wasn't gained authentically.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So
and it's not gonna last either.
It's not gonna last either. So
we have, I think, I don't know how this Zoom thing works. I don't know if anyone, for some reason, just joined us like halfway through the episode and didn't listen to it from the beginning. We're using Zoom
Yeah.
for this episode, and I don't know how it works, but I booked it for 4 more minutes from now.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, I do want to, I guess, final thoughts. Say, you know, it's dope to help people, give people some advice. You know, that's what life is about. Like we live life to help other people. In my thought, you know, hindsight is 2020. You look back on things and you understand why things happened the way that they did. And so with that, I think there's a responsibility to share the lesson. Maybe not always the experience, but definitely share the lesson that you got from the experience.
Absolutely. I wouldn't have said it better myself. Like, yeah, I understand that we're in a trying time and, you know, it's a dog eat dog world, as one of my friends said. But at the end of the day, it's like when you're moving with great intention,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I mean, there's no choice but the universe to pay you with, you know, that in return, you know, people having great intention and everything like that. So, you know, I agree with you. I definitely don't, but there's a balance. I totally get it.
Yeah,
And
there's yin yang, pro and con to
the balance
everything.
usually comes when when it turns into business and when there's a
Right.
profit to be gained. That's what I'm like, okay, let me pay more attention to what's going on. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the day. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's definitely an interesting topic. But lastly, what I would say is that I think it's important for us to help one another and believe in one another with any type of field that we're in, whether it be a creative field, whether you go to an office. If you have an office job and
That's your thing.
yeah, if you're an intern at a law firm or something, and it's you and one other Black person in there, like y'all together, don't feel like it's a competition.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It's not a competition. Both nowadays in 2020, both of y'all could win. You know what I'm saying? Both of y'all could completely win with doing what you're doing. So don't step on nobody's toes. Lift each other up. You know, I'm not trying to go on a preaching like rant or anything, but it really bothers me that we don't support each other. We don't support one another as much as we should.
It's better to help each other than to tear each other down, for sure.
Absolutely.
So much better. But thank y'all so much for listening to this remote episode of #Slick Talk. This is how we're going to be doing it, I guess, until this ban is lifted. Or not ban, but this lockdown.
Come on, man.
Stay in place.
Locked up.
And they don't let me out. But we hope y'all taking care of yourselves, staying home, support creative, support your dreams. Take care of yourself. I probably said that 3 times already, but it's super important to do that. Yeah. And we will see y'all next week.
Sounds great. You guys have a good one.
All right, bye, y'all.